Okay, good evening. Today we are going to be covering part 3 of Megilat Ruth. So to recap, in our last lesson, we learned about Moavi. Moavi is not allowed to be accepted as a convert ever, never. But Moaviyah, a woman from Moab, yes, she is allowed to be accepted as a convert. Next, we learned about Goel. The Goel is a redeemer. So we learned about the redeemer of the field and the redeemer for marrying someone else. A dead, a widow that is childless. Actually, we don't call it the goel. The goel is really for the field. That is called the yibum, marrying a childless widow. So the relative, the brother, or any other relative is allowed to marry the widow who has been left childless by her husband. Chalitza is when the relative doesn't want to do it, so he takes off his shoe and the widow spits in his face and puts him to shame for not wanting to do a mitzvah. I very briefly mentioned Yovel. So let's explain what is Yovel. We have two things. We have Shemitah and Yovel. Shemitah means that Hashem told us, and this is a mitzvah we do only in Eretz Yisrael, that any farmer in Eretz Yisrael can farm his land for 6 years. There's a cycle. The Bet Din, they have exactly when the Shemitah starts and when it ends. And so there's a cycle of 6 years when the farmer is allowed to work his land, plant, do whatever, turn over the soil, take away the rocks, the thorns, whatever he wants to do, prune the trees, he's allowed. Water and everything else, whatever involves in the field for growing crops. But on the seventh year, which is called Shemitah, then we are not allowed, the farmer is not allowed from Rosh Hashanah until the next Rosh Hashanah, he's not allowed to work the field. He's not allowed to water, he's not allowed to remove rocks, he's not allowed to prune the trees, not allowed to do anything. Not only this, but his field becomes hefker. Hefker means anyone can come and pick from whatever grew by itself, not that he himself worked to make it grow. He's allowed to take from whatever grows by itself. He's allowed to take for his family, but that's it. But otherwise, he's not allowed to sell and he's not allowed to work the land. That is called Shemitah. Then we have the Yovel. The Yovel, before I finish, for Shemitah, so if there was a Jew who became a slave, the master was is supposed to let him go by the year of Shemitah. If he doesn't want to, then the master takes this slave by the doorpost, makes a hole in his ear, and then this slave is allowed to stay with his master longer. But if the Shemitah comes, let's say 20 years later or something like this, he has to leave, or even 10 years later, or even 5 years later, he has to leave. No, it can't be 7 years later. The slave has to leave. Some other time I will explain why would someone be a Jewish slave. So that is Shemitah. The Yovel is actually a cycle of 7 times Shemitot, 7 times Shemitah, and so that it brings to the year 49, right? 14 years. 7 times 7 is 49 years. So there's Shemitah on year 49, and on year 50 is Yovel. So what's the difference? It's the same thing again. Then the farmer is not allowed to work the land. The Eved Ivri, the Jewish slave, has to be let go. He may not stay. And whoever had leased his field the field has to go back to its original owner. The lease is up, and the field comes back to the original owner. So these are the concepts that we learn, because we do touch about it in Megilat Ruth, and I explained to you about the last time about leket, and about when there's just 2 or 3 branches of wheat or barley that fall, when they collect the harvest, and shechecha, if a farmer forgets a big bundle of wheat, and also we also learned about the pe'ah, the corner that is left for the poor. So this is it for today's lesson. I'm going to stop here. And this was part 3A of Megilat Ruth.